2025 has brought us some great music, to say the least. I mean, so far from if you have looked at my album of the year account, I have a lot of favorites going for me. I have a few nines and a lot of eights so far. That's what brings me here to talk about the one album that exceeded my expectations, not only for 2025 but for the past couple years of music. And that may be the most over dramatic display of affection. Everybody's the same way with what they like, it's all subjective at the end of the day. Imagine you're alone, traversing an empty, vast sea, exploration calling your name. Only one album could possibly be appropriate for this occasion: Quadeca's Vanisher Horizon Scraper. Hailing from Los Angeles is Ben Lasky, aka Quadeca, who has been pretty big talk within the music community, and for good reason. Where do I begin with him that hasn't been touched on a million times already? I mean, it's to the point where it feels like explaining a superhero's origin story. A kid with a lot to prove, yet little to show for it in the beginning. Nonetheless, his name is one that defines perseverance, because even with all odds stacked against him between the corny rap projects and monotonous performances that have no interesting angle. While 2021 had been a pretty messy attempt at experimenting, it was the tremendous shift in 2022 that reeled in proper attention from the crowd. I Didn't Mean to Haunt You was a pretty big hit with the public, and for good reason as well. The atmosphere was drastically different and all the more captivating, in my opinion, seasoned with production, mixing, and an ambient atmosphere, all coinciding to create a beautifully executed, genre-bending project. Multiple highlights on this project that showcase what makes Quadeca a prominent figure in modern music. Also, why we should take him seriously as an artist and a composer in general. 2024 held the release of his next project, Scrapyard, which, although being a mixtape, made its way into my top 10 and still holds a spot near and dear to my heart. The versatility brought to the record felt exciting and refreshing as each track went by. The production on that LP is easily his most alluring until now. Vanisher Horizon Scraper exceeds everything I've known about Ben, his capabilities reaching far beyond what I'd ever imagined. Pulling clever orchestration, vocal layering that sounds pleasant on the ears, and track pacing that, although long in length, plays like a cinematic and smooth ride. Each song continues the journey, sometimes bringing excitement and at other times defiance. The theme is exceptionally structured and has no moments of straggling where an element feels out of place. This album starts off with what possibly is the most introductory track of introductory tracks out there. No questions asked holds repeated vocals with a sense of urge and exciting adventure in the instrumental, from the shaky maracas to the satisfying flute performance and slight piano appearance topping off this thrilling ride. The intense, lengthy first half of the track eventually bridges into a lavish burst of flavor, with these instrumental elements sort of playing behind Quadeca's vocals in harmonization over Olika is absolutely stunning, making the climax worth the wait. This album holds quite a few refrains throughout the journey, but just about every single one knows how to keep us on our toes. Waging War does this perfectly, for example, creating this intensive build-up for a little over 2.5 minutes. The orchestrated direction on this track feels so immersive, between the repeated lines that are delivered with great vocals and even its ability to keep the instrumental on a roller coaster as it builds and declines and builds again until finally reaching that breaking point. The next two tracks, Ruin My Life and Godstain, have the best reception with most listeners, and for good reason. The highest points of replayability come from how investing the instrumentals on these tracks are. Quadeca plays to his strength with the vocals and gives us the most beach-like vibe within the strings, bits of synths, and how smooth the energy of the song is. It doesn't get too experimental for some people's comfort, but instead takes things easy and is such a calming feeling back to back between both songs. In my opinion, Godstain could easily be my song of the year, and it's not even close. The laid-back island nature of this record is ridiculously incredible. There's no rushing into things. The song's progression is soothing, a nice little break before getting back into some stronger, more bold cuts like Thunder or The Great Bakanua featuring Danny Brown, one of my favorite rappers, by the way. Monday has a much more hopeful and uplifting energy that gives a boost of dopamine, whether it's the joyous vocals or Quadeca's positive messaging within the song's context, which seems like Ben is determined to win a girl's love no matter how long it takes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Things may not have worked out in his favor, but that hasn't stopped him from trying. Essentially, I'm kind of speculating the song's context here. I'm not too fully understanding of what it is, but that's my take at least. Pretty short in retrospect when it comes to the writing, but catchy nonetheless. Dancing Without Moving is the shortest track on the album, but has an entertaining rap performance with an exciting hook and constantly on the move beat to back it up and give it that upper hand it needs. That's why the track That's Why pretty much gives the same kind of performance as the last, where it's super entertaining while being very redundant in lyrics. The guitar is a complete distraction, however. The atmosphere even has flavor to it with the flute being in the mix. The instrumental is pretty explosive as well. While it takes a minute to cook up, feeling like a bit of a slow burn, the wait is pretty worth it in my opinion. I Dream About Sinking may be the only moment where I'm feeling a sudden pause on the adventure this LP has placed me on. The track is about as slow as things can get, but this specific moment doesn't bother me for quite a few reasons. The biggest one being how tranquil and cinematic the score feels, and it's as if the traveler has just reached a new checkpoint within the journey and is now free to explore the land. This interlude fits the nature of the overall project and keeps the experience immersive. The entire project has been giving us an imaginative and expeditious sound. I Dream About Sinking continues to relay that experience upon us. It's super soothing and is great when you allow yourself to get lost in its energy. I can't dismiss how cohesively it flows with the crowd just because it doesn't bring the same heights every other track does. Thunder has such an exciting and unhinged essence. The production on this song literally hits you like a truck not too long after it begins. Quadeca's creative choices keeps things refreshing and extravagant 11 tracks in with no failure. The ticking entrance quickly pushed into something more sporadic and cutthroat. The change of pace from Godstain to this is insanely polarizing, yet it feels like they seamlessly fit the vibe of this album perfectly, despite being so different. The Great Bakunawa is pretty funny as a listen, with Danny Brown rapping from the perspective of a water dragon. The track is the most rap focused with some pretty gritty delivery. Danny and Quadeca show great promise as a team and even have notable moments like the cutesy piano key touches nearing the end of the track with these dark heavy synths lingering behind it all, leaving this eerie trail in its path. After the most bold production choices and experimental elements, we get a more sweet and soft ballad that's light on the ears and has some more emotional vocal inflections from Quad himself. I enjoy the sentiments behind the writing of this track and feels like this would have been better as a closer for the project, as it sets a more of an outro tone to the journey. The storm has settled, the seas are quiet, and the mood has shifted into a more somber feeling. However, I still enjoy Casper's performance overall. It is an absolutely unforgettable and historical moment as it introduces the world to Maruja, a noise rock / jazz band that shakes things up with the blending usage of saxophone with drumming skills. These guys create a vortex with the relentless uproar of hunger that they have. Like every Maruja track I've heard so far, it builds and builds and builds and then releases into a potent ball of rage, basically making us wait for the full force action as if they were a new age swans. Going into this LP, I knew Quadeca would bring a new taste of something worthwhile, but little did I know how much of a presence he would have here. The most adventurous and arguably the most ambitious project he has to offer. Every piece of this LP holds cinematic instrumentals that leave me awestruck with quality that I haven't heard from production in quite a bit. I mean, a lot of magnificent albums that this past decade has brought to us, but there's a special case to be made about the ideas behind this album's atmosphere. As perfect as this may be, I know Quadeca isn't done shocking the crowd. He seems to have finally found his pocket and is very unique with his execution. Soon enough, his status will be spoken about to a much greater magnitude. I'm loving this project.